There's one myth about personal finance that causes so much unnecessary stress, and today we're going to talk about it. It has to do with taxes and the fear that getting a raise could actually leave you with less money. Well, let's bust that myth once and for all. So here's the question that keeps people up at night. Have you ever thought this? You get a fantastic raise, you're excited, but then this little voice in your head asks, uh-oh, does this bump me into a higher tax bracket? Am I actually going to lose money now? It's a really common fear. And here's the myth behind that fear. The idea is that if you move into, say, the 25% tax bracket, your entire income, every single dollar you earned all year is suddenly taxed at that 25% rate. Well, I'm happy to report that is absolutely 100% not how it works, not even close. To really get it, you have to completely ditch the idea of a single tax rate. Instead, I want you to picture something else. Think of your income as filling up a series of tax buckets. Okay, I know this table looks a little complicated, but the concept is super simple. Just imagine your income is like water. You start filling up the first bucket. That bucket has a low tax rate. Once it's totally full, the money spills over into the next bucket, and only the money in that bucket gets taxed at the next, slightly higher rate, and so on and so on.
Now, this whole bucket system has an official name. It's called a progressive tax system. And the name kind of gives it away, right? The tax rate progressively gets higher, but, and this is the key, only for the new layers or buckets of your income.
All right, enough theory. The best way to understand this is to see it in action. So let's walk through a real-world example together and actually fill up those buckets. Okay, so let's take a look at our example person. They're a single filer and they make $47,500 a year. We're going to use the single person table you see here to figure out exactly how their income fills those tax buckets. So first things first, we got to find which bucket their income stops in. An income of $47,500 lands them in the range between about $37,000 and $87,000. So their highest tax rate is 25%. But look closely at the wording, because this is everything. It's 25% of the excess over $37,500, not 25% of the whole salary. So we can break this down into a really simple four-step plan. First, we'll find out exactly how much money's spilled into that top 25% bucket. Second, we'll tax just that amount. Third, we'll grab the tax from all the lower buckets that are already full. And fourth, we'll just add it all together. Let's do it. Okay, step one, we take their total income, $47,500, and we subtract the starting point of that top bucket, which is $37,500. That leaves us with $10,000, and this is the magic moment right here. Only this $10,000 is going to get taxed at that 25% rate, just that little bit at the top. Step two is nice and easy. We just take that $10,000 and multiply it by its tax rate, 25%, and that gives us $2,500. So that's the total tax from just that highest bucket their income reached. But wait a minute. If you look at the table, there's another number in that row. It says there's a base tax of $4,867.50. So what's that all about? Where'd that come from? This is the brilliant part that makes it all so easy. That base amount, that's the total tax from all the lower buckets, the 10% bucket, the 15% bucket, already calculated for you. It's the tax on the first $37,500 of their income, all wrapped up in a neat little package. And now for the grand finale. We just put the pieces together. You take the $2,500 in tax from the top bucket, add it to the $4,867.50 from all the lower buckets, and you get a total federal tax of $7,367.50. See? When you break it down like that, it's not so intimidating, is it? So now that you're a pro at the whole bucket filling logic, let me show you the shortcut. The tax table actually gives you a little formula that does all this thinking for you. All right, let's bring in our friend Randy. Randy's also single, but he earns a bit more, $57,500 a year. He's actually in the same tax bracket, so we can use the formula from that same row to figure out his tax way faster.
And there's the formula, right there in the table. The tax is $4,867.50 plus 25% of the excess over $37,500. Sound familiar? It should. That's literally just our four-step bucket process written out in one line.
So you just pop Randy's salary of $57,500 into that formula, do the quick math, and boom, his total annual tax is $9,867.50. The formula's fast, yeah, but what's really cool is that now you know why it works. You see the buckets behind the calculation.
So we've gone through the myth, the logic, and the math. What's the one big thing you absolutely need to walk away with? Let's nail down the big takeaway.
Let's just put the myth and the reality side by side for a second. If the myth were true, our person making $47,500 would owe almost $12,000 in tax. But in reality, with the bucket system, they owe about $7,300. I mean, that's a difference of thousands of dollars. It's huge.
So here it is, the final word, the truth you can take to the bank. A raise will always mean more take-home pay, period. You never, ever lose money by moving into a higher tax bracket. It just means that a small piece of your new money, the money from your raise, gets taxed at a slightly higher rate. That's it.
You've just learned how to read a tax table, which is a financial superpower, honestly. You understand our progressive tax system better than most people out there. So the real question is, what's next? What other financial myths are you ready to go out and conquer?